Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. I'm going to do something a little different today. That's why I'm calling it freestyling. No, I'm not going to do poetry or anything like that. And I'm not going to be long because I essentially just want to share some thoughts and feelings about some things going on. And I may not even keep this. I may just let it sit out there for a minute and depending on what I say, okay? Um, but the reality is that we are in a terrible position in this country, and in fact, black people are in a terrible position in the world. And I think that we are not giving ourselves enough. Uh, what I want to say, I don't think we're treating the situation that we're in, the state of the world, as it should be stated, as it should be dealt with. Um, Let me just give you a few points of what I mean. Um, we're in an election year in the United States. And one of the things that should be almost scary is the fact that um, we may be in a position where our block voting may not even help elect anybody else other than the tramp. That's what I call him. Um, I'm gonna put this as delicately as I can, okay? But to me, it's the elephant in the room. I don't believe that white, that most white adult voters will vote for an an avowed gay white man for president of the United States. I'm just putting it out there the way I see it. Okay. Now, I do know or I do believe that they will be silent and they may even say in polls, etc., that, oh, they don't have any problems with it. But I'm telling you, they will not do it. Now, in the last election with Barack Obama, actually both of Barack Obama's elections, it basically came to be true what I've said and others were saying all during those campaigns, that white people were lying. In the polls and all that kind of stuff, when they were asked, they were lying, talking about they was going to vote for this black man. The truth is that uh, Barack Obama did not carry either one of those elections with the majority of white voters. The majority of white voters voted for the Republican candidates, and that includes many, many, many white Democrats. They voted for the Republican candidate rather than vote for the Democratic candidate because it was a black man. Now, those are the facts. Go look them up if you don't believe me. Now, the way history is being written, just like it was being dealt with back then, was that white people came out saying, "Hey, look what we did." They didn't do that. They did not. They did not elect Barack Obama. So they're doing the same thing now. White conservative voters and even liberal voters, white liberal voters, if they're asked, they will say things like, "Oh yeah, his personal life doesn't matter to me." See, this is that two-faced stuff. Go back and look at when the media started doing stories focusing uh, on uh, Michelle Obama. Look at where in the campaign they began to look at Michelle Obama and write stories about her. And look at now, when have you seen any major stories about the gay Jew's husband? You haven't seen no major stories about him. And people, the media goes out of its way not to bring him up or mention it. Okay? Um, show you how deep it is. At this Iowa caucus the other week, there was a white woman who was asked who she had voted for. She said Buttigieg. And I don't know if it was another person there or press or whatever, but anyway, they mentioned to her that he was gay. And she said, "He's gay? Oh, I didn't know that. I can't go for that." And went and changed her vote. Okay. Now, she had to be under, you would think she had to be under a rock not to know it. But you see, we live in a country where ignorance is rampant. And I don't mean, just the idea of people being ignorant like stupid. I mean ignorant like not knowing, not paying attention. This is still a country where you still got millions of white people who still think that Barack Obama is a Muslim. So, right now, we have a situation where we might have a Democratic Party nominee for president who is a gay white man. And if that were to occur, I honestly believe that it's being aided and abetted by the Republicans. Because trust me, the tramp will have no problems talking about his homosexuality, talking about Buttigieg's homosexuality. Because look, this guy doesn't care about none of the other stuff. What makes you think he's going to be nicey and not talk about his homosexuality? He'll dig into that like he's digging for gold. And his base will love that. Okay? And the sad part is the Democratic Party it would be ugly. Because first of all, the pressure would, if that were to happen, the pressure will be put on black people to support him. This is something that will be very, very ugly. Is that the white folks will press us to vote for him, even as they're sneaking over to vote for Trump. Because remember, who voted for Trump last time? White women in the Democratic Party. White women. They voted for him. Majority of white Democratic women voted for Trump. Don't get it twisted. They wouldn't even vote for a white woman. They wouldn't even vote for Hillary Clinton. They went over there and voted for Trump. So we're in a position where you already know that the Trump is going to continue to do what he's been doing: lying, cheating, stealing, robbing. Okay? And they're already working on the 2020 election as they have been. In fact, I believe that Trump's people were behind the fiasco in Iowa. I wouldn't put it past them. But understand that his campaign right now is already working to do certain things. They already got the money up, and they have a political organization that is technologically sophisticated, and it has the money, and is poised to do the most extensive disinformation campaign in U.S. history. Y'all can see. Here's one of the mistakes I believe we make. Whenever Trump or his people say something publicly that is ridiculous, that is a lie or stupid, we tend to say, "Oh, ain't nobody paying no attention to that. Everybody know he lying." That's a mistake because everybody doesn't know that. There are millions of people, not a majority, but there are millions of people, the people that we call Trumpists or whatever you want to call them. They believe that. They believe it. So we can dismiss it if we want to. But I believe we should be more accurate and say, we don't believe it, but the Trump's people do. And they believe it to the extent that they do not pay any attention to whatever media is pointing out the lies. This is what you got to understand. They are blocking out mentally anything that shows the truth, anything that speaks the truth. They are blocking it out. They're like these. I don't know what to call them. Uh, 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 these robots, whatever you want to call them. They're incredibly locked in mentally, living in an alternate reality with that Trump. You saw it. I'll tell you where you saw it. You saw it when you saw the Republicans in the Senate and Republicans in the Senate and the House when Trump gave his State of the Union address. They were like zombies. They were like robots. Whatever he say, he spit out some puke, and they would cheer and clap and stand up and give him ovations. It was one of the sickest things you ever want to see. Okay? That's what his people are doing. And they're doing this because of this. They believe that Trump and his people will continue to put you black people in your place. That's what this comes down to. Keeping black people in their place, gonna keep the brown people at bay. That's what this is. And anybody who believes it's not, well, I've been could have told you the bridge, but see, you people who don't believe that, they'll be like the folks who were saying, "Oh, that smell coming out of them ovens, that's not people." You had people like that in Germany. Smell, what's that smell? Oh, it's not people in the ovens. Okay? Do I believe it's true? Yeah, I believe it's true. I know it's true. Because you had people in the United States of America. They say, what's that smell? Oh, that's just that nigger over there hanging up there that we beat and shot and lynched and then burn him up. That's him hanging up on the lamppost. But he raped he looked at a white woman wrong. They said, oh, okay, then it's all right then. Okay. And since I'm freestyling, I got to mention this. There was a woman by the name of Susan Rice. She was in Obama's administration. She was one of his advisors. I guess what was she called? She was one of his international advisors, politics and stuff. And she'd been around for a while. In fact, she worked for Clinton, and I think she also worked for Bush. But anyway, she was very much hated outwardly by the Republicans. And so, she's supposed to be a straight up liberal and all of that, right? Check this out. Her son, she has a son that goes to Stanford University. And her son at Stanford University is one of the most conservative leaders at Stanford University. Pro-Trump. Yeah, Susan Rice's son. His name is John David Rice Cameron. He's 20 years old. And I hope you get a chance to see his picture because he looks like, I'm going to tell you the truth, he looks like somebody who's trying to pass and looks like an idiot, goofy. In fact, Susan Rice's little family, she got a daughter too with nice little golden curls and stuff. But he says that, he said, my mother and I have a great relationship, and my mother believes strongly in the free and respectful exchange of ideas. We disagree on most of the standard Republican-Democrat disagreements. However, we agree that America is the greatest nation the world has ever seen. Well, I wonder what he feels about Trump trying to take the world back to when his behind wouldn't have been able to go to Stanford, when they might have lynched his behind. Okay? See, his father, Rice's husband, his name is Ian Cameron. He's a former longtime producer and executive at ABC News, which is considered to be liberal. It's owned by Mickey Mouse. Uh, the boy is president of the College Republicans on the campus and the activism director of the California College Republicans. Now, I'm going to be truthful. If that was my son, first of all, I would snatch his behind out of that school and lock him up in the basement. No, come on now. Excuse me. I had to get a sip of water. He is, I guarantee you that Trump and his people are going to use that boy. And this is what hurts me in a way. It's like, see, we're so bound up in this idea of fairness. And we're dealing with people who don't have a fair bone in their bodies. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal, they'll kill for their positions. And we're sitting up talking about, well, we need to have conversations. We need to talk things out. We can reach a compromise. No, you can't reach a compromise with liars and thieves and killers. Y'all think I'm kidding about the killers? Look, what Trump and his people did back a few weeks ago when they set up a hit. This was a hit job, an assassination. They had their boy over there in Iraq issue an invitation to this dude from Iran to come over to Iraq to meet and talk about some peace things. He got on a plane, he came over to Iraq, and the number two or number one of the top Iraqi generals met him at the airport with his ride. They get into the vehicle, and a drone from the United States hit that sucker and blew them all up. And then Trump boasted and bragged about how they killed this guy, claiming that he was responsible for hundreds and thousands of American lives and stuff. Well, first of all, he's never been charged, never been arrested, never been tried, never been convicted. And yet, the whole American media and all these people, even the Democrats, have talked about how, well, he was a terrible guy, and so I guess it was all right that they killed him. And it allows Trump to brag about how he's dealing with terrorism. See, we have a short memory. We seem to forget that the United States, through its agencies like the CIA, etc., how many African leaders did they assist or even directly? How many were they responsible for assassinating in the 60s and 70s and probably 80s and 90s? Okay? Kwame Nkrumah was never accused of or arrested or tried for anything against Americans. Nelson Mandela was never accused of anything against Americans, but the CIA is who gave him up. Okay? Look at the list. There's a whole list. Look at this 1960s, and you'll see it here and in Africa and South America. And so the idea that Trump, and his minions decided to kill this guy and the others that got killed with him, including the Iraqi guy, the Iraqi general didn't do nothing. He's supposed to be an ally. Just so Trump could have something to brag about to direct attention away from his own stuff. Yeah, I'm tired. Among other things, let me mention a few other things. Uh, you know, it would have been comical if it wasn't real life. But after or during that so-called impeachment trial, you had some Democrats and some liberals and moderate Republicans saying this basic thing that, oh, well, we think he's learned his lesson. He won't try doing those kinds of things again. How long did he wait before he started firing people who had spoken up and told the truth in the impeachment hearings? what's his name, Vindman, the military guy, Vindman, he not only had him walked out of the White House like he was a perp, he fired his twin brother, and his twin brother had nothing to do with that. Okay? Then he recalled the ambassador over there, Sondland, I think it is. This guy, he gave $1 million to Trump's inauguration campaign so he could get to be an ambassador. And so he just told the truth too. But Trump said, no, he got to go too. And he ain't through, trust me. See, not only did he learned a lesson. He learned the lesson that he can do what he wants because he's holding folks by their talahaki. He's holding them by their testicles. Okay? And so he's going to get worse. And if you think that he's going to lose this election, I think we need to prepare for that, for the reality that he may not. That he may not. We already have some black people who have gotten so discouraged or tricked that they believe that, oh, number one, your vote doesn't count. Number two, Trump does more for black people than any Democrats, which is one of the most ludicrous statements. You know, they hear him say, well, I've gotten black unemployment down to the lowest it's ever been. And that's a lie. Plus, what's so sad is, yeah, there are a lot of us working jobs where we're not making enough to take care of ourselves, much less our families. And look around you. How many of your own people are working 2 and even 3 jobs or 2 jobs and a side hustle on jobs that are paying minimum wage? You can't live off a minimum wage. It's not a living wage. They got people all hyped up trying to get $15 an hour. And the companies and people that say, well, okay, we're going to give you $15 an hour, they say, yeah, but we won't get to $15 an hour till 2022. Okay? It's a sham. It's a scam. You've been hoodwinked, led astray. Okay? Here's the reality. In this country, United States of America, the minimum wage could be and should be easily $50 an hour. I know some of y'all say, what, is he crazy? No, I'm not crazy. I'll tell you why. If you look at what the CEOs and the presidents of companies and stuff make, they make obscene amounts of money. If you look at the profits of some of the biggest companies in this country, they're making obscene amounts of profits. You wonder why our communities are so poor? Because they have their life squeezed out of us. We have our lives squeezed out of us for $12 an hour. They have us working overtime, full time, downtime, uptime, and they're robbing us. We have to be real and understand this. We were brought here to work. And Africans in Africa were made to work. Why do y'all think that they had wars to why the European countries fought wars over African countries, resources. And the resources wasn't just the ones in the ground, and it was also the people. They made us work. Look at the Congo with that dude from uh, 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 uh oh shoot, what's his name? King Leopold. He made the people work. He said, "I need that rubber out them trees." He made the people work. In what's now South Africa, southern part of Africa, they made the Africans work. In Nigeria, all over Africa, they made the Africans work. They didn't extract the resources out of the ground. They made African people, they made us do the work. In this country, they made us do the work. They did us the same way they did in Africa. They didn't pay people in Africa, they made them work like slaves. Here, what do we do? They made us grow the cotton, pick the cotton, grow tobacco, pick tobacco, hemp. Yeah, they made us grow the hemp and pick the hemp. Rice. They made us grow the rice. What is that? Is that four? Tobacco, rice, hemp, cotton. Yeah, yeah. They made us work. All right? They make us work now. That's why we are the ones who, by the time we get to our 50s, we'll woe out. And we start dying in our 60s. Now, I said I wasn't going to be long, and I think I've touched on some things. Um, so let me get to some couple of quick things here. Because I know it might sound kind of depressing what I've been dealing with, but it should because it is depressing. One of the things I want to do real quick is mention this. You have some folks, including some black folks, who are running around talking about racism is a mental illness, and so it should be dealt with like it's an illness. That's not true. Racism is not a mental illness. Now, it may drive some people crazy, and it may cause some people to act crazy, but it is not a mental illness. And I'm going to show you why. Unlike mental illness, racism is taught and is instilled in people. In South Carolina, the state policy is not mental illness, it's racism. No state you look at for hundreds of years, state policy wasn't mental illness, it was racism. Racism was why you had the Civil War. It wasn't mental illness. People assume racial biases are irrational. And it may be, but it's not a mental illness. See, the problem with saying that racism is a mental illness, it makes the racist the victim. It says, oh, he or she is just sick, and we can cure that, but we shouldn't punish them while they're blowing us up, killing us, rape, pillaging, and plundering. Okay? Now, it also says that black folks who are the ones we the ones who suffer from racism, it says, well, they're just well, they're not as victimized as the white people who are really ill, who are racist. And so it's like skip over us. And it does cause us mental health issues along with spiritual and physical. Because when you see a brother or sister hanging up on a tree where they done shot them and burned them up and lynched them, that wasn't no mental illness. That was racism. Now, that's why they like to see us, whenever something is done terrible to us, they want us to hurry up and forgive. Why did they do that? You didn't see you look when whoever flew those planes into the buildings on September 11th. You didn't hear ne'er a white person talking about, oh, we need to forgive them. You didn't hear ne'er one, and they was all dead. The perpetrators, they were dead, wasn't they? You didn't hear them saying nothing about let's pray for their souls and forgive them. They were looking immediately to get some revenge on some people that were still alive that they could blame it on. Yeah. So we need to understand that racism is having a terrible effect on us in that it's beating us up mentally, physically, spiritually, and economically. Um, and it's really bad in terms of black women. You see, they have used black women so badly. I mean, they use black men and women, but they've used black women in some ugly ways. Um, give you an example. Give you an example. In slavery, um, they forced black women to breastfeed white babies. Now, what's so egregious about, what's so terrible about that is this. They made laws that said that if the mother was enslaved, then her children would be slaves for life from the day they were born. Now, we know that white men raped black women and impregnated black women and forced them to have them babies. And so they were making slaves. Making slaves. And then they would either use them to work or sell them. And some folks say, well, the women didn't have to have them babies. Excuse me. Talk to me when you're enslaved and tell me what you will or won't do. We would not be here if black women did not endure the pain and suffering that they did. Just like the black men. We would not be here if we did not, if black men didn't endure. Now there were some that fought and we did all kinds of stuff. We fought, we escaped, we did all kinds of stuff. But we had some that stayed and endured the shit, what went on, because they had to, because they believed that somewhere down the road, we meaning us right here, would fight to defend them, to avenge them. Okay? So if you believe that the black women should have killed themselves rather than have those babies, then go kill yourself right now. Because you wouldn't be here if they didn't do what they did. All right? Um, but my point was, or one of my points was this. In some states, in some plantations, slave owners had a rule that if you were an enslaved black woman, that if you had X number of babies by the time of such and such an age, you'll be given your freedom. Some cases, it was if you had 12 babies by the time you was 21, whatever it was, whatever the number was. And so You had people that didn't have no choice. They would try to do that. And in some cases they did. They'd had them babies, which belonged to the slave owner. But here's what's so ugly, or uglier. If they made that number and they were given their freedom, guess what? They had to leave that state. Yeah. Some cases within 60 days, 90 days, 30 days, they had to leave. So they had to leave their husbands, their other children, whatever, their families. They had to leave. Now that's an ex-slave leaving that state, going somewhere else because they had to. In some cases, they go to another state and they get snatched up, sold right into slavery again somewhere else. Yeah. See? Now, why did they make them leave the state? Because they didn't want you around if you was free. Because what good is a free person on a slave plantation? All right? And if you're still in the state, you might be an example to some other folks, other slaves that, well, what is it like to be free? Well, I don't have to get up in the morning and go out there in the fields. Ooh, well, that might be cool. I might have to get me some freedom. You see? So they made you leave the state. That made it even crueler. Cruel. All right, now, the other thing about racism not being mental illness is that it delegitimizes the fear that black people have. We live in a constant state of fear. We do. You think I'm lying? Ask any black man, what is the first feeling he has when he's driving down the street and he sees those flashing lights in his mirror? What is the first thing he feels? He feels fear. Why? Because we don't know how this can end up. We can end up locked up with a ticket, or we could end up dead. It's a fear. And that fear goes all the way back to, again, when we were brought here, when we were enslaved. Okay? That is a mental illness. That causes mental illness. But let me basically conclude here this way. We live in a toxic political atmosphere. And so these next few things I'm going to share with you because I want you to understand what we're dealing with. First of all, you are not wrong in believing we're in the midst of an unprecedented government lawlessness. You're not wrong in believing that because it's true. I mean, there have been some outlaws and stuff running the government before, but these thugs that have gotten it now, and we're talking about the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court. Okay? Yes, we're in the midst of government lawlessness, meaning that the people in charge have said, we are above the law. See, every time I hear these politicians saying no one's above the law, that's a lie. We're living in an age when there are some people who are above the law. See, you got to understand how this works. That's when somebody says nobody's above the law, and you see people who are definitely above the law, they can't stop them from doing wrong. They can't lock them up. They can't get them out of power. Then they're above the law. That means they're pissing on you and telling you it's rain. Okay? And you're not wrong if you feel ill when these people are spewing their hatred and their lies. You're not wrong in feeling ill because it is sickening. It's sickening. And what we have to do is we have to protect our health, and we have to protect the health of our loved ones, especially the most vulnerable ones, on a mental, physical, and spiritual level. Because understand, some of our folks, they may not realize what's going on to the extent that they just know they feel tired, they feel angry, they feel sad, they feel depressed, they feel irritable. They don't understand that it's in the toxic atmosphere we're living in. And that includes, we already had economic issues, and now you slam this on top of it, where you got fools and idiots and imbeciles and liars and all of that on top of it, telling you one thing, and the media is giving them, you know, normalizing their lies. It's enough to make you tired and irritable and angry and sad and depressed. So we have to help them deal with that. And how do you do that? Well, we have to do things, use tools to counteract the negative energies. Um, One of the ways you do that is music. Now, I'm going to be very specific. Music operates on us. So I'm not saying don't put on music that has lyrics unless those lyrics are positive energies. For an example, don't put on songs where, what do you call them? Love songs. Because those are not therapeutic to someone who's trying to deal with toxic environments. Don't put on no blues. I would say some jazz or music with no lyrics that are uplifting, or songs that have lyrics that are uplifting. For an example, Stevie Wonder's song, um, "Love's in Need of Love Today." It's a great song. That one will uplift you. As by Stevie Wonder. See, there are some songs with positive and uplifting lyrics. Keep your head to the sky, Earth, Wind, and Fire. So seek out songs and music that is uplifting, and you play that and you share that with people who are going through those negative times. Okay? Healthy foods. Yeah, don't lay in there and keep eating the foods that make us feel, what we do. We have a big old dinner and then we feel colored. We want to go to sleep. Um, you want to eat foods. I'll give you a good example for me. Years ago, Dick Gregory taught me this. He said there are foods that are live foods, and then there's foods that are dead foods. If you eat dead foods are not going to lift your spirit. Now, what is a dead food? Well, for example, meat. Yeah, meat's not alive when you eat it. It doesn't mean you give up meat altogether, but it means you got to work on eating some live foods. Um, Fruits and vegetables that are steamed, those are live foods because when you cook foods, uh, you're killing the food. Okay, so steamed vegetables, really good because that's live foods, beans and what do you call them, legumes and things like that. Look them up. Look up live foods. That's what you want to eat. That's what you want to make for people who are going through changes. Okay. You also want to have encouraging conversations. Okay. You want to find things that are encouraging to talk about. Sometimes, especially with older people, talk about family members. Get them to talk to you. Get them to talk to you about family members, their parents, and and things, stories of their lives and things, positive things, encouraging conversations. Get them to tell you about um, things that they went through, that they overcame, that their parents overcame, their cousins, uncles. James, you so crazy. Grab a live chicken and chomp on it. Stop. No, not a live chicken. He's so crazy. Um, I'm looking at a comment that James from Philly made. He said, grab a live chicken and chomp on it." You know what I'm talking about. Um, meditations. Meditations are good, and that includes if you're a praying person, praying prayers can be good. But I say this, and I know this probably get a rise out of some people, and it's just something I never talk about. But I say this: look, understand that when you pray, you need to first of all find out if you're male, are you doing a man prayer or a woman prayer? No, some folks say ain't no difference. Look here, do you believe there's a difference between white people praying and black people praying? Then what makes you think that there's not a difference between man prayers and women prayers? And I just say go check it out. Don't believe me, go check it out. Find out if there's a difference. Okay? And finally, exercise. And that can be as little as something like just walking. Walk with your friend, walk with your family member. Um, Sometimes just walking can be so exhilarating. Now, some of us live in neighborhoods where we can't even go out for a walk in our neighborhood. So you might have to call up a family member or a friend and say, hey, listen, come pick me up. We need to go out somewhere where we can walk. You can find somewhere you can walk and just walk. And if you can find somewhere where you walk in where the air is decent enough that you can breathe it. And if the sun is out, go sometimes just go somewhere where the sun can hit you. You ain't got to walk if you can go somewhere and let the sun hit you, but the combination of sun and exercise, sun and walking, oh, it'll add years to your life. And it will allow you to get some of that negative energies off of you. Okay? Um, Share kindness. Share kindness with people. Okay, that's real important. Share some kindness. And also check your voter registration every month online. No, that's serious because we are in the midst of one of the largest efforts to nullify our vote in the history of voting. We thought it was bad before. No, it's 3 times, 4 times as bad. So you need to check your voter's registration every month online. Okay? And for those that don't know how to do it, you check for them. Every family member that's eligible to vote, make a list. Organize. Organize. And lastly, understand that there is a war going on. It's a battle to kill our minds, our spirits, and our bodies. And if somebody in your circle is trying to convince you that it's not true, that it's not a war going on, that it's not a battle, flee them with a quickness. Last but not least, believe that we will win. That's the end of my freestyle for today. Oh, next week, hopefully I'll be able to get this finished. Next week, I believe I'm going to try and do it in one session, but it might be in multi sessions. I'm going to deal with the 4 points of race um, division, the 4 keys that are used against black people to divide us, the 4 major keys. All right. And I guarantee you, this one Uh, this one really shake you up, and it's hopefully will bring some clarity for some people to understand. Even for those folks that say that they're what do they call it, ADOS and things like that. You'll be able to have the information to be able to judge whether or not that's a viable position. All right. For now, I'm gone. Thank you for your attention. And as always, no justice, no peace, no love. KNOW.